Francisco. Got no one, no place to go. Yeah. She went looking for a go-go. Got no one, no place to go. Hey, now. Hey, oh, 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 hey, hey, oh,
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Wall and Power TV on the road. I'm your host, Paul Metza. We've got a very special guest tonight, a man who happens to be a very good and old friend of mine, a fellow by the name of Keith SECOLA, a Native American songwriter, musician, and magician who's in town. He travels the country, and he's in Minneapolis doing a show tonight at the Astor Cafe. So we would like to thank my good friend Jeff Arundel, who owns the Astor. We're right next door in the River Room. And we've got a few minutes to talk to Keith before he plays tonight. And so Keith, so good to see you, my man.
Good to see you, Paul.
People, because we look so young, they'd have no idea how far back we go. But Keith used to play in a band with my younger brother, the Schwartz Brothers. Keith's from Mountain Iron, Minnesota. I'm from Virginia, Minnesota, the Queen City of the Iron Range. And so we've known each other for over 40 years.
Yeah.
So where are you coming from, and then where are you going to?
Well, I just came from the West Coast. Yesterday I played in San Francisco. I played at the American Indian Center. It was quite an afternoon performance. We played for people who came in there, part on recovery, part on their road to discovery.
Yeah.
And then the day before that, it was a real cool roots movement. It was called the Red Indian Market in the hood in Oakland and Truesdale Street, and it was a real cool gathering. And some hip hop artists came by and native vendors from Northern California. I really like that, going off the grid and kind of going where the people are, kind of a community outreach, you know, like saying, and we incorporate people in our act. And my son was an artist, is showing out there too, so there was a bonus.
What was his name? Because I met him last year.
Keith Jr.
Keith Jr. Because Keith SECOLA, my guest tonight, myself, we had a really lovely bumping into each other occasion last, I believe it was September 30th, down in Parkland, Florida. It was a concert, a kind of a Parkland healing concert where the horrific shootings take place, and also Get Out the Vote concert with Ziggy Marley and Michael Fronte. But they had a dinner the night before hosting all the musicians, and I walked in and looked across the room, and there was my old friend Keith SECOLA. And Keith, what did you do? You wrote some songs with those kids, right?
We went down there with Peter Yarrow during the springtime. Pete selected some songwriters and he asked me if I'd come down there, and we worked with the students. And it was really important to not appropriate or to do anything that would be in the way of what we wanted to do and permit healing.
Right.
It wasn't a self-promotional thing or anything. So we went down there kind of under the radar and wrote a couple days. We wrote songs with the kids. There was we split into 5 groups, and a couple songwriters would say, "Here's a riff" or things, and we didn't want to influence the students, and the songs came from them more, and we were just kind of like we were gatekeepers on it, and I really like that. Pete Yarrow made sure he made the reference to when they marched in Selma, when he was with John Denver and Donovan, and the night before they went and asked, why are they there, you know, and watched about appropriating or using this situation to advance your own kind of look at me, look at how thing, and so it was real sincere. And so that whole thing, that when I seen you down there, I was so happy.
Yeah, it was so much fun.
It was almost like a bigger brother too. I've always looked up to you and the Cats, and very inspirational. So
Cats Under the Stars, my old band.
And it was like we're down here, we're singing for these young people. We're doing the right thing.
And those songs were that you performed, there was what, 25 or 30 high school kids that sang along and
Yeah.
played, and you played. It was so beautiful. It was really one of, not only it was, I was so honored to be a part of it, but just the performance, those songs that you wrote with those kids was so moving.
The kids are talented. There's some really ringer singers, you know,
Yeah,
who could really
yeah.
sing on pitch, and some guitar players, and all bright young children. And it was such a tragedy that this happened to them or anybody
Right.
in that thing. And so, as a grandfather, as a father, as a brother, as an uncle, I really come there like that, you know, like Uncle Keith or Grandpa Keith.
Oh yeah,
Let's
I'm
just
Uncle
sing some
Paul.
songs.
There's so many
Yeah.
young musicians.
Yeah, and it's so nice to have that respect, I guess, and to see that, and to be part of that movement. And now we're going to release a album from them songs, and we'll see how it goes. I know that the young people there have done a lot in Congress and in talk shows and getting awareness out, you know, about everything, mostly about violence.
Well, Keith, you've really embraced your native heritage and have done so well, and really are kind of at the forefront for the last 25 years. I mean, I follow you enough. You know, you're very good friends with my brother and his wife Carol, and so I know every time you get up north, you hang out with them and you jam, and played at John Paul's new resort,
Yeah, I was
Pelican
like-
Lake Lodge. And I wish I could have been up there for that. But when did you, number one, start really getting into music, and then how did that segue into your rediscovering your family's roots and your tribe's roots?
Yeah. Well, I think, you know, after high school, I saved up when I was 18. I painted houses with my father, Orlando, all summer.
Your father, I remember, painted our first floor on 417 Fifth Street South in Virginia. He was a fabulous painter.
And it was great. He'd hire, seems like musicians and Indians for his crew. And so we always had a magical crew. And so I remember I saved up, I think $500 that summer, and I hitchhiked to Hibbing, Minnesota, and I bought a Gibson Marauder. And, you know, I kind of knew little guitars. My mom would always have rum and sale guitars.
So Gibson Marauder, I'm thinking this is 76,
Yeah,
75.
76,
yeah,
yeah.
right, see?
And I seen it up there. I didn't know you could barter with music people either. Like, well, I got $500 there. Could you give me an amp too? Yeah, and I remember I hitchhiked home from Hibbing and stopped at my friend's.
Well, let me just jump in there to give a little Iron Range history here, because that music store, which was it called Crippa's Music back then?
Crippa's, yeah.
Well, that is where a young songwriter by the name of Robert Zimmerman at the time, Bobby Dylan, that's where he used to get some of his records and his first guitar. So long history of cool musicians walk out of that place with an instrument.
You know, I took lessons for a couple weeks, and you know, the guy was showing me on the page, and I played it for him, and he put away the book, and he says, "Okay, what song do you want to learn?" And it was magical from there. You know, like learning from people. That's what I think is the most inspiration. Is people inspire you, and you teach yourself. Of course, your band was very influential. The musicians in there. You know, Tim
O'Keefe.
and John is, you know,
Jack
wonderful,
Pasternak,
wonderful people who would inspire you and yourself, the songs. And so you kind of learn, you know, in my band, the Schwartz Brothers, with Dan Boyer, Sharon Rowbottom, Art Iverson, Tim Wright, Steve Marnetti, who's here tonight, you know, and we were a cast of misfits, you know, like, and John, of course, and we were casting together, and there was some raw talent there, though.
Yeah.
You know, like, what helped us a lot was Sharon could really sing and Dan could play guitar, and the rest of us were entertainers, you know, like, look at us, you know, like, and so it was kind of like that, and you kind of learn. But at the same time, I remember taking it very seriously, you know, trying to play the right guitar parts, so even though my guitar parts were just rhythm parts, you know, playing the right chords at the right time, and in a bunch of a fun situation.
Well, what's kind of, I'm not going to say it's unique to the Iron Range in northern Minnesota, but as far as I know, it's special, and that's the musicians you were talking about. your connection to my brother, and you guys still play together with Martinetti and Cats Under the Stars. Timmy O'Keefe and I are playing right next door here on my birthday, and it'll be the 45th year that Metsa and O'Keefe have been playing together. And I learned so much from Tim. I mean, he was the guy that turned me on to the blues, you know, Sonny Terry and Brown McGee, and then Muddy Waters and Little Walter. But what I guess my point was that 40-some years later, we're all still playing together to a certain degree.
You know, I remember I was sitting on Chestnut Street, and I just bought my Marauder, and I was walking down the street, and we were by Tiny's appliance store, and I ran into Tim O'Keefe, and I was telling him I'm going out west with my guitar, you know, to be inspired a little bit. He thought that was so cool, and he was also inspiring. Oh, yeah. But to listen to his riffs and on the harmonica and things like that. And,
well, and he's turned into, you know,
a musician.
He's probably one of the greatest percussionists, I'm going to say, in the country right now. I mean, the guy can play Colombian music, Cuban jazz, Persian music.
And that's kind of what I've been living in Phoenix, and it kind of led me to my roots. You know, like your question was before about how I got into corresponding Native activism and music and things. And I remember going up to the Boundary Waters in a little bar called the Winton Municipal Liquor Store, and going into the bathroom, and I seen Indian cars carved on the wall. Right. And at that time, it was more derogatory, you know, like more racism and, you know, poor poverty kind of. Right. And so I kind of said, you know, I'll write a song about this, and kind of said, I got a sticker that says Indian Power. I stuck it on my bumper. That's what holds my car together. Kind of the essence of not being able to see the magic or believing in something you can't see.
I've been driving in my Indian car with the pound of the wheels drumming in my brain. My dash is dusty, my plates are expired. Please, Mr. Officer, let me explain. I got to make it to a powwow tonight. I'll be singing 49 down by the riverside, looking for sugar, riding in my Indian car. Got my T-bird in the glove box, I ain't got no spare. Got a feather from an eagle, I ain't got no care. The road is empty in my bottle of desire. Daylight is breaking, the sun touches fire. I got to make another powwow tonight. I'll be singing 49 down by the riverside, looking for sugar, riding in my Indian car.
And it kindly started to turn it around, you know.
You certainly did.
And I remember there's this thing called 49. It's an object, a style of native singing. It's like, I'm from Oklahoma, got no one for my own. So they got English words. They came from the war when a lot of tribes would come together. You'd have your tribal tongue, I'd have my tribal tongue, but we couldn't speak to each other. Right. So English became the denominator. And still the melodies were pentatonic kind of melodies, but with English words. And so that song, Indian Cars, it's a pentatonic scale.
Right.
That's an older, kind of a social melody, a 49 melody. So
Right.
I draw a reference, cultural reference to that song, and it's about the richness of being poor, kind of like.
Right. Well,
that-
you
that
know,
magic.
that I loved when you said you really turned that concept of Indian car, which you said was derogatory, into kind of now it's almost like a power chant.
Oh, yeah.
Because I mean, there's a lot. If you go on YouTube and you Google Keith SECOLA, SECOLA with a C, you'll see you're playing at these huge Native events, man, and everybody just starts singing along, you know, and it's incredible. And geez, I believe I saw one several years ago, one of your YouTube videos. I don't remember if it was live or an actual video. There was damn near 1 million views.
Oh, yeah. And the song, you know, it's very metaphysical. Like in a Native culture, or in any songwriting, they say a song should have some criteria. One, should it be entertaining?
Right.
2, philosophical. 3, spiritual. 4, metaphysical. So if a song has these criterias, where someone will say, "Did you write that song about me
Right.
or my car?" And so you kind of learn to write yourself out of the song.
Right.
You know, so the song belongs to people.
Right.
He said that you said, he said that she said, you said, he said that she said, you said, he said that she said, you said, he said. All I'm asking for,
Fried bread,
fried bread,
fried bread,
fried bread, fried bread, fried bread, fried bread.
And so I pushed it out there that way. And I remember the great songwriter Robbie Robertson.
Yeah.
He really liked the song, and so at the beginning of
Another
this,
great musician with Native blood.
yeah, he's Mohawk from up in the New York, and I had him play my guitar, and he was talking about that song and a song called Andy Was a Bad, but he was saying, Keith, when you give the song to the universe, it's given to the universe, you know,
Right.
like this, you give that magic to it, and you see if it comes back, and it's gained momentum like that. There's a hip-hop group called Tribe Called Red who's really popular now, and they put a new spin on it last year. At the same time, there was this young Navajo championship fighter who went in the ring, and she won the championship, and she got introduced to that song on the day it came out. So, you know, here's a poor man releasing his record on December 19th of a punk label in New York.
Right.
And this young Navajo fighter is on pay-per-view. Millions and millions of viewers are listening to that song. you know.
Beautiful.
And so I couldn't have timed it better. So where you get press, you know, press in a kind of a grassroots way.
Well, and yet the song's happening on a metaphysical way going through the universe, and you never know where it's going to touch down.
And that's the thing about music too, is all the songwriters and musicians, you got to plow your fields and get them ready for rain. You don't know if it's going to come or not, but you got to be in that game. You know, you always got to be working and creating and things.
Well, I remember going up to, I think, the Red Lake Reservation. Was it Net Lake? I'm not sure exactly. It was a school trip. I was only in 7th or 8th grade. And I saw Floyd Westerman, who did a concert at the school. It was like junior high kids. And he blew my mind. I mean, he was the native Richie Havens.
Yeah.
And I still bow down to Richie Havens, may rest in peace. And of course, his great song, Custer Died for Your Sins. And, You know, I've got to brag a little bit about my buddy Keith SECOLA, because he said Robbie Robertson, another hero, of course, songwriter for the band. But you have really rubbed shoulders and played music with some of the greatest musicians of our time. U2, Neil Young, Peter Yarrow, Robbie Robertson. Because it's not only the power of your music, it's just the power of who you are, Keith SECOLA. Because you've got your own magic. We've known it for years, you know. We always talk about that damn SECOLA, and we say that in a good way.
Oh, yeah. Like some of these musicians I've been collaborating, I was in talking with John Densmore from The Doors, and he's become a very good friend of mine. And you know, he would talk about the time when they first met Jim Morrison.
Right.
You know, they came, Ray Manzak said, we're going to have a practice here, and they came, John and Robbie came in, and this is from John, you know, he's telling me the story. Right. And he goes, there was a real shy guy in the corner, you know, and Ray Manzak said, this is going to be our singer. And they kind of was a little surprised, you know, because he wasn't a musician, and how they would write songs. John say they would have, Jim would sing his melodies and they would figure it out. Ray would figure out, oh, he's going to F sharp minor there. This is an E flat, you know, and you'd follow him. And so, and he had pages like that, you know, like little secret things like that, and talked about his influence of native culture on Jim Morrison, you know, how he had a native. I say, well, I got a little white drummer from the Doors on my shoulder. You know, John Densmore, who's conscious.
Right.
And he's done so many good things, and he's a wonderful person. What I feel like, these people like this, they make you feel better.
Right.
You know, about what you're doing. Like Garcia, they liked Indian cars, and from 94, 93, 95, they spun it. And so I got to meet Jerry the first time, you know, and he said, hey, John, get Keith a beer. He doesn't drink. Keith, sit down, man. How you doing, Keith? You know, don't worry about things, man. Good music falls through the crack in America. You know, Americans going to get your music. It might take them 10, 20 years, man.
Right.
But they're going to get it. They're going to get it, Keith. You know, like that. And he was very inspiring. And
when it comes from Jerry Garcia, you got to believe it.
Oh, and then there's Nicky Hopkins, who was a friend of mine, was going to produce an album in the 1992.
Played with the Stones and Garcia among.
Yeah, and I didn't know he was with
Yeah.
Garcia until I was in San Francisco
last
week, and I seen that, wow, Nicky, and I've become close to Nicky Hopkins before he passed away. I went and he was out in Tempe and went out in LA. And
Nice.
Bill Wyman was there and people like that. It was kind of classic. Oh, hi, Bill. Basically, hello, pleased to meet you.
So Keith's got a gig in about 20 minutes. He's invited me to sit in. I'm really looking forward to that. Let's do a little business. How could people track down your music, track down you, get a hold of you?
Well, I got a website, SECOLA.com, SECOLA.com. And that's probably the easiest way. Of course, Facebook and Instagram. I'm pretty present on a social calendar. I could be more. I could have a manager, but the old school kind of thing, you know, like let's just kind of go along and be organic. But those are the two basic ways. And just I'm on the radar now and off the radar at the same time. The song is entitled "Every Day's Christmas."
Every day's Christmas, every day's New Year's, Halloween, and Valentine's Day. Hanukkah and Earth Day, Mother's Day and Father's Day, every day, Indigenous Day. You and I was meant to be on the same side, upon the same ride, forever in our dreams. Ooh, on the same page, about the same age, forever in our dream.
I really appreciate your time tonight, Keith. We were lucky enough to catch a little bit of this video you were doing. What's the Christmas song called?
It's called Every Day's Christmas, and every day's New Year's, you know. Every day is a holiday and cheer, you know. Earth Day and Hanukkah, Mother's Day and Father's Day. So there I'm trying to be as metaphysical as possible, include as many religions into happiness.
Right.
It's about happiness. I think happiness is a gateway drug to creativity, to all kinds of, and it's a subtle happiness. I think it's a subtle happiness that is the magic of music. Just like we teach people to eat less processed foods, we're teaching them to eat less processed music, consume less processed music, so that they can see the magic and joy as even a bird singing, or even the breeze or the river. And that simple, that music is all around us. And I think that's what we got to do, is let people use the medicine of music.
That's a beautiful way to end this interview, and we're happy to be doing it right across the street from the Mississippi River.
All right.
Where it all started. Keith SECOLA, this was...
Every day, it's a holiday and cheer.
Thank you, Keith SECOLA. You made me happy.
All right.
Thanks for watching Wall of Power TV on the Road. Once again, we'd like to thank Jeff Arundel, Jen, the Astor Cafe, and the River Room, where this was being taped. We'll see you next week, same time, same station. We'll save you a seat.
I've been riding in my Indian car, the pound of the wheel in my brain. My dash is dusty, plates are expired. Please, Mr. Officer, let me explain. I got to make it to a powwow tonight. I'll be singing 49 by the confluence of the riverside, looking for sugar, riding in my Indian car. Hoka! Not yet. Car's dented and the radiator steams. When headlight don't work, the radio can scream. I got a sticker, says Indian Power. Stuck it on my bumper to hold my car together.